All right. Let's get fired up here.
Maximum freedom. Read.
Stay on target.
Maximum freedom.
Stay on target.
Maximum freedom. Read Rothbard.
Hello and welcome to the Actual Anarchy podcast where we talk about movies from a Rothbardian, Anarcho-Capitalist perspective. Tonight, we're finally going to do it. We are here. We're not queer. And we're going to do Justice League and do the wrap-up on Batman v Superman with our guest from Adelaide, Australia. I know that we teased you guys a couple of weeks ago that we were going to do this, and then we had a change-up. And that was because our guest had other obligations to his employers or his family, whatever. We're here now, and we're going to do this. And this is going to be episode, I want to say 130. Is it 135? No, that was the original one. This is episode 130. Crap, what is it? What is this episode, everyone?
I know.
What the frick if I know? This is episode 138 of the show. And you can find the show notes at actualanarchy.com/138. How you doing, Robert? Save me.
Oh,
Save me.
good,
You big, strong man, you. Save me.
You need a hero? Is that what you're trying to say? Like a big old Superman?
I do, yeah. Can you rise up from the dead? I'll put you in the liquid soup and then have the Flash run at it.
Do you have like some sort of an alien box of any kind?
We should just CGI your mustache off.
That too, yes. I have an alien mustache, and we're going to charge that up with the Flash's frictionless suit and get this massive static electrical charge and defibrillate your body. Get your heart.
Do you understand that sequence where he had to have an electric charge hit it at the exact moment that it was hitting some water goo?
Yeah, made total sense to me. I don't know what you're complaining about.
Comic book logic.
That's all it takes. And we're going to get into some last night's portion of the show. Shall we?
Okay.
Hey everyone, it's Daniel Elwood and Robert Johnson, Last Nighters, and Last Nighters are part of the Launchpad Media, where you can always finding ideas launched in your general direction, much like farts from the Monty Python folks. And this can be found on thelaunchpadmedia.com. We're going to be doing Justice League for the, finally here. It's episode 81 of the show. You can find the show notes more at lastnighter.com/81. My Robert co-host is here.
So Daniel, for this episode, have you actually watched the Justice League?
I just finished it today.
Did you? So you're still off that high? You're still like pumped? You're also jacked up on Justice
Also why
League
he's
juice.
drinking.
You just can't wait.
Look, I'd be glowing had I banged anybody on that elevator.
What?
I'd be glowing had I banged anybody on that elevator. Mallrats, why are you glowing?
Oh my God, Mallrats, of course. Movie from 30 years ago. Why didn't I get that reference right away?
Our almost other co-host, Shaheen, this is like your 8th time on the show. Our Batman man. So I appreciate you coming back to educate us on the whole DCEU, the extended universe here. And we do need to wrap up a bit of unfinished business with Batman v Superman. We didn't do our rating and review, and there were a couple of notes that I wanted to go over. But then you felt as though Justice League didn't quite have a whole lot of content worth talking about, so we could kind of do all of that in one episode. You still feel that way? You still feel good about this?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Excellent. Well, why don't you just remind everyone real quickly your 30-second summary, who you are and how they can get in touch with you or read your work, and then we'll kick this off with the Google description for Justice League.
All right. So I'm just a student, just turned 21. I live in Adelaide, Australia, and I'm a big fan of libertarianism as well as DC characters like Batman and Superman. So that's kind of what I am here for. And you can find me on Twitter from the show notes page, I believe.
That is correct, sir. And that will be at lastnighters.com/81. So a couple of people are excited about this one. You were, you did really well in the last episode. We felt as if we had been in a lecture of some sort.
Okay, good.
So
but this time it'll be a bit different. Last time I was defending the movie. This time I think all three of us will be shitting on the movie.
I think that you're probably right. I will say in its defense, and this one at least made more sense with what was presented on screen.
Mm.
Like the VVS, the director cut, it certainly helped link some of the disparate elements together to where it made more sense. But the theatrical cut, yeah, it was just like all of a sudden this has happened and then this happens over here for no reason whatsoever.
Mhm.
So at least in this one, you kind of know why they're doing the stuff. Granted, how they do it is bizarre, and how they suddenly appear over there when they were just over there makes no sense to me, but it's fine.
Mm. Yeah, keep in mind there was an hour and a half of the content cut. So if we get a proper director's cut of Justice League, it'll be 3.5 hours long, not just 2.
Right. Now, I had seen somewhere that it said that there was over 2.5 hours of Snyder footage not used.
Yeah, that's because they did reshoots. So Schneider shot 3.5 hours, and then they cut that down to 2 hours, or minus 1.5 hours, and then they reshot half of the movie. So technically, when you watch the movie, you're only getting half only Snyder footage, and the rest is just Joss Whedon.
Right. Okay.
Like all the humor, all the quips, and like the light tone. And did you notice how the color was different? Like in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, it's like, I don't know, it looks more dark and realistic. Whereas in this, the colors looked a lot bolder. Like it felt like a generic superhero film.
Right. Yeah. And they tried to harken back to like the 80s where they had a quip after every like thing, every moment, they had to say something to each other when they would be impossible for them to hear each other. Except maybe Cyborg could have been speaking through Batman's communication setup that he had with Alfred. But when Merman, the little merman, is talking to Batman while he's riding on the front of the Batmobile, it's like, there's no way you can hear him. Not possible.
Film logic.
I mean, maybe Merman's got like some kind of different ability to speak louder than the Batmobile, which has an 800 horsepower engine. With freaking jets. Anyway. So, Robert and his sunglasses, are you ready for the Google description here?
Hit me with it.
All right, I'll hit you with it one more time. We're talking about Justice League, which came out 2017, PG-13 fantasy sci-fi, 2 hours in length. Got a 6.5 on the IMDb, 40% Rotten Tomatoes, and 45% Metacritic. And 83% of Google users like it, which usually the Google ratings are pretty much always on the high side. So seeing something even in the 80s indicates to me that this wasn't wasn't that well liked, wasn't that well received. But here is the description.
Are the Google descriptions like hacked? Like the Google ratings, is it easily hackable where you can like vote multiple times? Because I know that there's a huge, well, not very huge, more like a small contingent of DC fanboys that really get indignant about people trashing on their films and will kind
Depends
of like
what films though.
Review brigade kind of stuff.
Depends on the film. I don't think any of us like Justice League though.
There's nobody hardcore defending Justice League?
Oh no.
I mean, maybe Warner Brothers and DC has hired a bunch of people like in the Philippines or something to hit the little like button on this thing, because it is right here actually on the description. It says how many percent like it, and then it gives me a thumbs up, thumbs down option as if I'm in Gladiator. So I can choose wisely, or I can not choose wisely. But anyway, here's the description.
Oh, you don't have to have seen the movie at all. You're just like, I can open up a web browser and vote.
Yeah, it's almost as easy as voting in the American democracy.
2 perfect systems then.
What could go wrong? Fueled by his restored faith in humanity and inspired by Superman's selfless act, Bruce Wayne enlists newfound ally Diana Prince to face an even greater threat. Together, Batman and Wonder Woman work quickly to recruit a team to stand against this newly awakened enemy. Despite the formation of an unprecedented league of heroes in Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Cyborg, and The Flash, it may be too late to save the planet from an assault of catastrophic proportions. The release date was November 17, 2017. Director Zack Snyder, though, Shaheen, you'll probably break this down to what percentage is actually Zack and how much is Joss Whedon. The box office was $657.9 million, which sounds like a crap ton of money, but this movie cost almost $500 million to make. And part of that, I believe, is due to some reshooting that needed to happen. And I think there were over 3,000 actors in this movie, which sounds insane. But that's going to be costing you quite a bit of money.
Every extra? Is that what's going on?
Right. And why you wouldn't just CGI that, I don't know. Everything else in this movie is CGI. But this is in the Justice League series. This follows Batman v Superman and precedes Suicide Squad. That they actually do a little bit of a teaser at the very end, which I don't know if you guys saw that. If you stick in the theater, they'll have a couple.
I don't think that's cool. I don't think that's for Suicide Squad. That was meant to tease. It's meant to tease Justice League 2, but it was originally meant to tease the Ben Affleck Batman movie. which is now not being made.
Really? Okay, because Eisenberg's there talking to
Deathstroke.
Deathstroke, and he says, "Yeah, we need a league of our own." And I thought
Yeah,
that
I think
squad.
they changed that to make like they're meant to be the Legion of Doom, and then that was meant to it was Joss's way of setting up Justice League 2, which was a different direction from Zack's vision. But originally that scene with Lex Luthor and Deathstroke was just meant to set up the next Batman movie.
Okay, but it was just ambiguous enough to where they could sort of make it work to the layperson here for Suicide Squad.
That's how they could get my money, 110,000%. If they made a live-action version of the Legion of Doom, complete with the big evil dome head in a swamp with Black Manta and Lex Luthor, and I don't know, there's like a cheetah lady, and I think Solomon Grundy is in it. A bunch of other villain guys.
So Robert, you're telling us that the prize, they could get all your money, of which you have almost none, but that's the prize they could win.
They could ensure my participation at their next showing, one of their movie films, going to the actual theater if they did a Legion of Doom. And I'm sure that they would like to do a Legion of Doom, but they haven't set up a Legion of Doom yet. They do have Black Manta. They've got Lex. They've got Zod, but he's dead. But since when has that ever stopped anybody? I'm sure they could get a few more going. I mean, if they got Deathstroke and some Suicide Squad members, they could do an LOD. That'd be great. Yeah, they got the Justice League versus the Legion of Doom. I'd be there. I don't care.
That could be their Endgame or their Infinity War.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool. Oh, and I want to back up for a second. One of our commentators on the live stream here gave he said it's the Russians, guys. It's the Russians. So the campaign to get the 83% on the Google users is a Russian campaign to influence the election here, sway the public opinion. There's probably some Facebook ads in there that diverted people's attention and brainwashed them into thinking this is a good movie.
How dare they hack our democracy like this? I'm outraged. There's nothing I hold more sacred than movie reviews. And
it's time for nuclear war.
That's right. We got to invade.
All right, so Shaheen, that was the Google description. Do you think that it describes the events fairly well? I mean, it's sort of just like
more
setting
of
it a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of what you'd expect from a review, from a short summary.
Right. It doesn't even mention, who the villain is. But why don't you, can you tell us who Steppenwolf is and how he relates to the overall universe? And what level of danger does he represent to those in the know?
All right. So now in the DC universe, there are old gods and new gods. Old gods are like Zeus and Ares, who we see in the fight sequence of Justice League, although it's heavily cut. Then there are a bunch of people called the new gods. There's two planets called New Genesis and Apocalypse. Now, Apocalypse are the big bad guys, and New Genesis are the good guys. So you get people like Darkseid and Steppenwolf, who are from Apocalypse, and you get people like Darkseid's son, Orion, who is a good person and is fighting against his father. So Steppenwolf in the comics is Darkseid's uncle, but I think in this version they made him his brother or his nephew to not be confusing as to why Darkseid's more powerful. But yeah, he's a new god who, Darkseid's story is he wants to, there's a power to control, to get maximum power and to control other beings called the anti-life equation. And parts of this equation keep coming up around Earth, which is why Darkseid attacks Earth, so it could take control of the anti-life equation and just become the ultimate god and control everything. But I think Steppenwolf's plot in this, in the theatrical cut, he's just some dickhead who wants to control the world, wants to take over Earth. That's it, like generic. But in the original plot, he was meant to, the mother boxes have the essence of his mother. I think her name's Hegra or something, but that's why he calls them mother. And he was planned to release his mother so then they can both take over Apocalypse and get rid of Darkseid.
In this film?
No, in Snyder's original vision.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're gonna have to clarify for us lay folk here, because in this movie,
he just wanted to take over Earth for no reason.
Well, it wasn't even take over; it was just like turn it into his hellscape that he's from, right?
Apocalypse,
so kind of like
terraform it, right? Just like in Man of Steel, but we didn't understand why, or at least I didn't understand.
I didn't understand why.
He wanted a new place to live, a second home, Bernie Sanders style.
He's just like flexing his power, essentially.
But why isn't Darkseid ever mentioned at all? I mean, I guess it might have been too complicated or not making sense.
There is one scene where he says for Darkseid, which implies that he's there doing Darkseid's bidding, which was not true in the Snyder cut. But do you know the backstory about Darkseid? His real name is Uxaz, and he was a new god who, when he gets the anti-life equation, and then he becomes Darkseid. So in his weaker form, he's Uxaz. And that whole history lesson where Wonder Woman talks to Batman about how like Steppenwolf invaded and all of the tribes of man had to fight against them, that was meant to be a lot longer. And there was meant to be a proper fight, and Darkseid was there. And Zack's actually released footage of that scene, or like pictures, and Darkseid was rendered, and he did exist.
So when was the plan to actually bring in Darkseid as a villain, as the main villain? Like the next movie?
The next movie. So this movie was meant to end with Steppenwolf retreating back to Apocalypse, and then Darkseid kills Steppenwolf and says, "I'm going to visit the Kryptonian," and that's how it would have ended.
Okay, but then it got scrapped because of what, budgetary or what?
Oh no, it's because they thought Batman v Superman was too complex, and so they should follow the more fun, simple, happy, light-themed Marvel formula. Like, be very bright and colorful, have a very simple plot. They just sit down, watch, have humor all over the place, and don't take it seriously, and just get rid of every mention of the big bad, other than one tiny cameo.
This
one
movie
Easter egg.
did very much seem like a direct right turn in terms of the tone.
Yeah.
And then that seemed to be a very conscious effort in terms of copying the Marvel, which I thought I don't think they quite pulled off, but it was definitely lighter than the previous.
Personally, I don't hate Marvel movies or MCU films, but I just think of them as just entertainment. You sit down, you leave the world, you go inside this fantasy world. It's fun. You laugh, you see a bit of action, you get some emotions, and then that's it. You're done. Whereas with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, I see what I like about them is the dark themes, complex plots, and just a serious tone. Like the movies take themselves here. You feel like the stakes are high. Like, two comparison shots in Batman v Superman, when Superman gets nuked and Batman's kind of in the Batwing going, and he sees Doomsday. Like the music, the overall feel, you feel like you're in danger. But in Justice League, when he's in the Nightcrawler thing, and Steppenwolf hits it, he just says, "Oh, he is really tall, isn't he?" Which just feels empty. You don't feel like anything really matters.
Right. Yeah, this was much more of a Saturday morning cartoon style movie.
Right. And Robert, that's one of your criticisms of many of the Marvel movies that we've talked about, or we've talked about while talking about other movies, where you're like, yeah, they're doing this thing, and then they just try to break the tension with this lighthearted talk while some, amazingly difficult and dangerous situations happening that they're not taking at all. And so you're like, well, why do I care?
Yeah, my favorite example is in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where they're in this massive battle with these golden people, and I forget the names.
Gallagher players. They're playing Gallagher or something, aren't they? It's like a video game to them.
It's basically a video game. It's like 1 versus 500. All these ships are vastly outnumbered, and they're about to die. Supposedly, they're about to die, right? They've set up the odds so that there's no way they can get out of this. Now, of course, the audience knows they're not going to die, but they're the main characters. But there still should be some kind of tension of danger. And then the main characters are like bantering back and forth as if these other people don't even exist. And so, like Daniel just said, they don't appear to be worried about anything. So why should the audience worry about anything? So
I guess,
yeah, you can have your jokes and whatnot, but if you're going to have it right in the middle of a tense action scene, you can't flip the tone that quickly. It falls flat. You have to respect the scene and understand what it is you're trying to convey to the audience.
I think a movie as a whole can either be one of the two. Like if your movie's going to be very serious, then if the rest of the movie's a joke fest with just a few serious scenes, altogether the movie's still a joke fest. Like if you want a movie to be serious, like let's say, what if The Dark Knight was done like a Marvel movie with jokes every 5 seconds? I mean, I enjoy Marvel films, but I don't want like Justice League and Batman and Superman films to just be cheap Saturday morning cartoons. I want them to be serious with very complex plots.
Yeah, that's not the trend that's going to happen. That's happening.
Yeah, sadly.
I think the studios are going for more broad appeal. I mean, if you watched Aquaman, right? You did?
Yeah, I did.
And that was a very lighthearted tone. Had all kinds of silly, wacky stuff, and that made over $1 billion. So I think they're going to follow that line.
Yeah, you said
I reckon if Batman
was playing the drums, right?
Yeah, there's a giant octopus playing the drums in that movie. There's stats to the guys that are about to fight. Anyway, go ahead.
If they release the director's cut of Batman v Superman instead of just a theatrical, more people would have gone to watch it again, because the theatrical made like 900 million Batman v Superman, and most people, when they watch the Ultimate Edition, do say that they find it a lot better. So I reckon if they released that, that would have got $1 billion in 2016. But just studio meddling.
Yeah, I don't think that there's. I mean, I don't know about the new lady or the new person that's supposedly the Kevin Feige of the DCEU, but there needs to be some kind of a champion person that has a lot of clout, that believes in the product and believes in the vision.
It used to be Zack, but like what happened with Zack is he finished filming Justice League in 2016, and they were in post production. A lot of the effects were done. The score was finished. It was by the same guy that did Batman v Superman, but then his daughter committed suicide. So he took in May. So I think he took some time off. But then when he was gone, the studio thought that they don't like his complex, dark, 3.5 hour Justice League movie. So they're going to do reshoots. They hired Joss Whedon. They cut 2.5 hours of Snyder's footage. They added an extra hour of Joss Whedon's footage, and we got the Abomination.
Right. You got two different directors' visions, and they're trying to merge them together like a Frankenstein monster. Generally not going to well. And then you add a bunch of studio ins on top of it. Some kind of movie made by committee. I don't think it's going to satisfy too many people. It's going to leave a bland taste in everybody's mouth.
And apparently, general audiences were happy with the test screenings, and like test screenings always get positive reviews. That's why I never trust them, because reviews like test screenings for Justice League, everyone was like, "Yeah, it's funny, it's good, we like it," but then it came out, everyone was like, "What the fuck is this shit? It's horrible."
Right.
So is Whedon like all of the action movie 80s style quips during the action?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did
Avengers 1 and 2.
Yeah, the first Avengers and the second Avengers. And if you watch those, there's Tony Stark's quipping the whole time. But that's okay because he's that character. If you had everybody quipping all the time, then it's like, what's going on here? But
yeah, I mean, this one I felt like everyone had a quip, and it seemed like they were doing, all right, it's your turn to quip, and then we're gonna go over to this guy, and he's gonna quip. We're gonna go over to this person, they're gonna quip. It's like everyone had their turn, And I found the Aquaman guy to be really highly annoying. Dressed like a bat. Dressed like a bat.
Yeah.
Dressed like he said that same line like 4 times throughout the film. I mean that, and
I can't wait for you to see Aquaman then. The entire movie of that guy.
And women adore him, I guess, right? I mean, he's a buff dude with long hair. I mean, and I got the long hair, so
You're
I hit the gym a bit more.
You want to talk about the very beginning of the movie? I wrote a little rant on that.
Yeah,
so Batman he's like going after this criminal, but then this parademon flies in or whatever, and he starts fighting that thing. And then he traps the parademon under this, like I think it's like a net of some kind. And then it self-destructs. And it leaves the imprint of these 3 boxes in the brick. And why it does that? I mean, it's the only parademon that does that. None of the other ones die like that. But then this somehow, for this reason, does that. And this somehow conveys to Batman that there's an imminent attack coming. How? I don't understand how that conveys that to him. And then he just forgets about the crook that he was fighting. Well, okay, whatever. Just, you're not important. Just go away. I thought it was this really weird, clunky opening scene that didn't explain anything. It was just weird. I don't know. That's all I got for that.
Yeah, that opening scene, that was a Joss Whedon scene, and you can tell because the bandit is quipping with Batman like multiple times.
Yeah, it was like a cartoony goon from like the 60s or 70s or something.
I think the beginning of Snyder's movie was, how in Batman v Superman, the beginning of that is the ending of Man of Steel, but from Batman's point of view.
Yeah.
That's how this was. I've heard rumors this is how the opening was meant to be. It was meant to be the ending of Batman v Superman, but from Lois's point of view. Like she sees a big spike and he goes and sees Superman's dead body. Then it's the funeral and shows where she goes after that, and then that's the credits.
But then this movie got turned into a Saturday morning cartoon, and so they took out all the serious stuff.
Yeah, all the emotional.
Well, that's shitty.
The military was meant to be more involved as well, like General Swanwick, I think, and I think the Codex would have been mentioned. It definitely was more important in at least the later movies. Superman's. I think that's how they were able to bring him back using the Codex. It meant something. It wasn't just some random thing that was just in Man of Steel. It was meant to have more importance in later movies as well.
Okay, one other thing. When Bruce Wayne, he meets Barry Allen for the first time. He's in Barry Allen's apartment. And Bruce Wayne, he's seen the video from Lex Luthor, the surveillance footage of Barry Allen in the convenience store. And so he knows he's got some sort of superpowers, but he doesn't know exactly what. He throws a batarang right at Barry Allen's head. And then Barry Allen like totally dodges it super easy, grabs it, whatever. And Bruce Wayne goes, "Oh, so you're fast." If he hadn't been fast, he could have easily just killed Barry Allen. It was this weird, dumb, bizarre way of testing somebody else's powers. He could have had some other, completely other power that only works in convenience stores. I mean, he doesn't know. Anyway,
that's a good point. And Barry Allen also has to be aware that it's happening. Like, if he doesn't see this coming, he could just get brained.
Yeah, could have a battering in the skull if he didn't see it. Doesn't know to move. He doesn't have super spider sense or anything. But yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of little things because I couldn't really, it's just like a dumb popcorn movie. So it's not like you're super paying attention. So all you can do is just react to each individual scene in like a ridiculous way. At least I could have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of little things like the mother box getting grabbed while the Justice League just kind of leave it sitting on the ground after fighting Superman.
Oh,
they know they're super important. What?
That third one? Yeah.
Yeah. At the very end there, after fighting Superman, someone just yoinks it. Yeah. It's like, okay, couldn't you had like somebody looking at that thing?
And when that happened, it looked like just the boom tube thing came down and then all of a sudden the thing was gone. But the boom tube was in the alien ship, but the box had fallen out of it and landed on a police car. So there wasn't like a connecting scene of Steppenwolf like actually getting the box.
No.
Well, and then there's also another scene. Forget me if I'm wrong, but I was watching the film and it appeared like there was a group scene where all of this kind of hanging out talking in some kind of warehouse with a bunch of equipment around it. And then they're like, we got to go get this mother box. And then Cyborg's like, leave it to me. He disappears. Scene's over. And then the next scene is just Cyborg appearing in the scene and going, here it is. So
yeah, that's not what was meant to happen in Snyder's thing. They were meant to go to Star Labs as a team.
Yeah, it's like it happens off screen. Like I get it. It's at Star Labs and Cyborg has the ability to go get it or whatever. But the fact that it happened off screen is like you're counterfeiting any kind of drama in the movie. Like an entire movie, you're supposed to be setting up problems and obstacles for your heroes to overcome. But if the problem is solved off screen by somebody, we don't get to see it. We don't understand how hard it was. We just assume, oh, it must have been a piece of cake then. Okay, whatever. You just eliminate all the drama in your movie. That made no sense to me.
Yeah, and then when they had to fly to Russia and Batman's like, oh yeah, the jet can't fly that fast. Cyborg's like, oh, it'll fly that fast for me. And then all of a sudden they're just there after just having random conversation on the plane. It's like there was no Cyborg doing anything, making the plane faster somehow. They just, all of a sudden they're in Russia.
Yeah, I hate that shit. I hate it when they...
And also...
Yeah, I just hate it when a problem that's set up for the characters to deal with is just waved away. Just like hand waved away. Like, why set it up if you're just going to be like, oh, that's not a problem because I'm so-and-so. Like I keep bringing this up, but in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
I couldn't even finish that movie, by the way.
I fucking hate that movie. I haven't done it. I still hate it. There's... Right after the scene I talked about where they're fighting the whatever robot people or the golden people, the ship is like damaged and they crash land on a planet and they're like, oh no, the viewer's like, oh no, what are they going to do? They don't have a ship. That's what they use to get around to do things. But it doesn't matter because Rocket's got this spray can and he's just going to spray it on the ship and it completely rebuilds the ship. And it's like, why even have the dumb thing crash if fixing it is like, no big deal. You just like snap your fingers and like everything's fixed and like who gives a fuck and why am I even watching this stupid fucking movie? Why set it up to be a problem if you're just going to have it fixed off screen or fixed with a snap of your fingers or fixed by some magical character ability that who gives a fuck and fuck me, fuck everything.
Yeah, that reminds me of the little the can of bug spray with the Russian girl found in Justice League. Was that just supposed to be like a visual joke? Because she doesn't do anything with it.
I think it was like bug spray because parademons are like bugs, but then that's it. Also, like something that like I was looking forward to. The Batman's new suit, how he has the glasses that come on. Like, yeah. He was actually meant to wear that for a lot longer, and you're meant to see like in that whole Batmobile sequence, it was meant to be a lot more different. You were able to see his eyes, like he had thermal vision and like targeting stuff, like with the glasses. They weren't just there for 5 seconds and then he takes them off. They actually served a purpose. And I think the Batmobile like got destroyed and turned into a bike, like in Dark Knight. and then he jumps off the bike, and then he swings. And then when he swings over and beats up the parademons, he actually gets on the minigun that's there and shoots a bunch of parademons down. So yeah, they nerfed a lot of characters, but they didn't nerf Wonder Woman though. They left her scenes, and I think they added some as well. Despite the fact that Wonder Woman had her own movie come out earlier that year as well.
Yeah, Wonder Woman doesn't interest me as a character. Maybe it's just the internalized misogyny of me or whatever, but she doesn't seem as a very interesting character, even though they spend a lot of time on her, and I have my own issues with the Wonder Woman movie, but I don't know, she's so supremely powerful, just like Superman. These godlike characters, you have to have godlike opponents, but even then it's still so far removed from the human condition that I can't really relate to it. Like, what are the relatable power levels between these characters? I can't even imagine. Like, can Steppenwolf lift 1,000 tons and Wonder Woman can lift 900, and Superman can lift 1,200? I don't understand, the power level, so I don't understand how hard of a thing it is they're doing. So I can't really relate to them. It's tough.
I think yeah, Wonder Woman and Aquaman are the same level.
Really?
And yeah, because they're meant to have a war there's a comic book called Flashpoint, where it's like an alternate dimension, and the Amazons are at war with the Atlanteans, and the Queen, which is Wonder Woman, goes against the King, which is Aquaman, and they're very evenly matched. And we were meant to get a movie like this, but no, it's just been scrapped. And that movie would have had Thomas Wayne be Batman. So this alternate dimension, it's Bruce Wayne that gets killed, and his mom becomes Joker, and his dad becomes Batman. And his
sounds like there's a whole lot of cool ideas for movies that end up not getting made.
Yeah. And his dad's like a crazy madman murderer Batman, just pulls out guns on everyone.
Yeah,
I'd watch that.
That is weird, right, Robert? Like, there's all these cool ideas for movies, and they make crap like this, and then they remake movies that already exist.
Yeah. It's like they want to make movies that are the least offensive to anybody, so they end up making completely bland movies that nobody gives a shit about.
Yeah, like honestly, every time a new Disney movie or a new Marvel movie comes out, everyone's like, "Wow, this is the best one yet." I remember people were saying stuff like Ant-Man's better than Batman v Superman. Like, I don't even remember the plot of Ant-Man. It's just that when they don't have a meaning or a good plot, or just they don't take themselves seriously, they're just so forgettable. And like, it's okay for entertainment. You sit down, watch it for like an hour or 2 hours, then you're like, okay, that was fun, and then just forget about it. But yeah, a lot of people. It's
true that. Well, yeah, I agree with you on that one. I would say that Marvel movies don't really have a deep philosophical argument to be made, so they don't stick with you as long as other movies do. That's for sure. I think they neared it. They're getting closer to it with having Thanos be a Malthusian murderer guy, because he at least had a philosophy that drove him to action. Whereas like the villain in Ant-Man, like you say, was just an evil version of Ant-Man. He's like a good version of Ant-Man fighting an evil version of Ant-Man, just like an Iron Man. Iron Man fought an evil version of Iron Man in the first movie.
Twice. And then in two
again. Right. So it's just laziness for the most part. And then not wanting to ask difficult questions, pose interesting ideas. It's for broad appeal, right? The Marvel method is absolutely proven moneymaker. I don't know if it's going to make movies that last the test of time that are going to be interesting to discuss. And there's a reason why we probably don't do Marvel movies as much as we otherwise would. You think, Daniel? I mean,
I keep wanting to or intending to do like Civil War and even Winter Soldier, but
Winter Soldier was really good.
It just never
one of the best.
Completely agree.
I think Winter Soldier and Iron Man 1 were my favorite Marvel movies. Like, as in, they're really good movies, not just popcorn flicks.
I think the Russo brothers, I think, do fantastic work for the Marvel people. I don't know how much reign they have to write the stories they want to write, and how much Kevin Feige kind of directs them to do whatever, but they do good work for sure. I think Winter Soldier, Civil War, and the Avengers movies are fairly strong. Especially they're responsible for, I believe, Endgame and Infinity War, yeah, and Civil War and Winter Soldier, which are, I think, some of Marvel's strongest work.
And also, have you noticed how in Endgame and in Civil War, when Cap America hears Bucky, he just stops everything he's doing, and he lets Crossbones just kill a bunch of people, or he lets go of who he thinks is Loki. He gets knocked out. Yeah, like what pisses me off is that everyone talks about how that Martha scene is so stupid. Why would a name make him like get PTSD despite it's his dead mom? But then Captain America hearing Bucky and then just completely putting his guard down, and no one seems to criticize that.
Okay, well, but to be fair though, Captain America's relationship with Bucky was set up in his own movie. And even though, Superman's relationship with Martha, his mother, is set up, obviously, in Man of Steel. And we understand Batman doesn't really have a relationship with his mother, but of course her death was very traumatic for him.
And he still has PTSD and nightmares about it.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. That is definitely, set up for sure. I don't know why Marvel movies get a pass and DC movies get shit on. I think being fun gets a lot of credit. You get a lot of passes for being fun.
Yeah, sure. I guess it's just different audiences. A mainstream audience who just wants to enjoy superhero movies for laughs and just a bit of entertainment and some emotions here and there. And then they go to watch like a movie like Batman v Superman. A lot of people said that the movie made them depressed. Like, well, isn't that a good thing? Isn't a movie influencing you that much? Isn't that a good thing?
Yeah, I think that they were expecting maybe more, the Chris Reeves Superman, because that's all they really knew.
People always say that this Superman is too dark and angry. And yeah, sure, but that's like his character arc in Batman v Superman. And also, like, if you look through like the comics or the Superman animated series or just even Christopher Reeves movies, he had angry moments too. Superman isn't always just fun and games. He's not always smiling. He does get angry. He does rage.
For sure. Absolutely. But he had that kind of, I don't know, boyish charm, especially as Clark Kent, that and as Superman, especially when he's, just going around saving Lois Lane, and they got that great chemistry, Margot Kidder and him. Mm-hmm. That's another thing, is that Amy Fisher does not have the chemistry with what's his bucket like those two had in those movies.
Amy Adams, you mean?
That's the lady.
Yeah. I don't get her appeal. She just plainsies.
And she doesn't have the spunk of the, go get 'em reporter lady that Margot Kidder had. I understand that it's a different time, but I think that people would really appreciate it if they had that kind of spunky reporter lady vibe.
Hey, it's not lady reporter, it's journalist. All right.
That's right.
I don't know. Most journalists aren't real.
I think we would have seen more of Clark being, more of a dork after he comes back to life and he wants to go work again. People will be suspicious, like, oh, Clark's coming back to life right when Superman came back to life, and they both died on the same day during the same event at the same place. But everyone will be suspicious, so that's why he's like, okay, now I have to go out of my way to make Clark look like a total idiot who could never be Superman.
I got the impression in this one that it was known that Superman and Clark Kent were the same person.
It was known by Lex for some reason.
Yeah,
I thought it was known by everyone at that paper and just in general.
I don't think everyone knows. I think a lot of people from Smallville knew, like his old friends, the guy he saved from the bus, that old the church guy. Who had his name? No, it's his mom and Lois.
What about Fishburne?
Perry?
Yeah, I think
Perry White doesn't know, does he? Does he?
It's not confirmed, but I reckon at the end of Batman v Superman, he finds out. Like the way he looks at the newspaper, it says Superman dead. On the next page, Clark Kent dead. I think he kind of put two and two together, and I think everyone at Clark's funeral knew.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, why is Bruce Wayne at Clark Kent's funeral? It's weird. If they looked over to him, I don't know, man. This movie's got problems.
This is a confusing mess. Can we talk about the Flash a little bit? The Barry Allen guy.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out if he was supposed to be funny or just really annoying. He's just a normal human, right? But he can go fast. So why didn't he die every time he got hit by some super powered being?
He can manipulate the Speed Force, whatever that means, and vibrate his body to something. I don't pretend to understand the Flash's powers.
Okay. Now, is he faster than Superman? Because in the movie, Superman appears to be faster. And
that annoyed me.
Actually, in actuality, yeah, keep in mind, this is a Flash that's just starting out, so he might be a bit slow, but Flash is meant to be, like, the Speed Force makes him, like, the fastest thing there is. I think at one point he ran faster than the speed of light, which isn't possible, but he did it in the comic.
Right. Well, then that seems like it would be pretty fast, because I remember in Superman, was it 3, when Lois dies, he flies around the Earth in reverse?
I think that's 1.
Superman 1.
That's in 1? Okay. But fast enough to go back in time.
Yes.
But at the end of this,
Flash doesn't.
at the end of this, they have this like race to the coast. You know, like, oh, I've never seen the Pacific Ocean, so go that. Oh, it's that way. Okay, and then they race, and it's like it takes them time to get. You know, like seems like it would take them time based on how fast before they cut. But I mean, a Superman can like circle the Earth in 3 seconds or whatever. I mean, in Batman v Superman, he flew to somewhere Africa to save Lois in the nick of time. You know, and it relates to like this whole Justice League movie. Like, I don't understand how they're showing the characters in one position and then all of a sudden they're in another position. Like, the one that really stood out to me was Batman is overlooking the downed alien ship, the Kryptonian ship, and they're driving the truck to get through the checkpoint. And Wonder Woman's up there talking to Batman like, I'm doing this for him or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then the next moment, they just go through the checkpoint and then Wonder Woman's all of a sudden there magically for no reason. And then I guess Batman ziplines in, which is fine, I guess. I mean, at least he has some activity to get there. But Wonder Woman's just there.
I didn't even notice that. And I was pointing out problems with this movie all the time. So
I'm sure there would have been scenes in between where they're like walking through the ship and like more Starlab scenes as well. Because there is like deleted pictures. But yeah, that's what happens when you get rid of 2.5 hours of content and you just add a lot of quips.
Yeah, a lot of quips and CGI mustache removal. Now that's all from reshoot, right? So like some of the scenes
in the original when Snyder was shooting it. When Snyder was shooting it in 2016, he didn't have the mustache. He only got the mustache in 2017 for Mission Impossible 6, and then they did reshoots during that.
Okay.
So the scenes you see where he doesn't look retarded, they're Snyder shots, but the scenes where he looks like demented with a buck tooth, that's Whedon. No, you want to finish up touching on? I'm thinking, do you want to go through quick criticisms of Man of Steel and then Batman v Superman, and then I'll just talk about the Snyder Cut of the Justice League?
Yeah, we could do that. Sure.
All right.
What were your problems with Man of Steel?
Oh, well, just off the top of my head, Superman not saving his father from the hurricane because his father wanted to die because he was afraid that people would see him getting saved by his son, which just strikes me as a crazy thing. It seems like people would be kind of more interested in worrying about the hurricane or the tornado that's coming than seeing some fast guy rescue some other person. Whatever.
The thing is, his dad, there's two reasons behind why his dad didn't want anyone to know that he was Superman. One is because he thought the world wasn't ready and the world would hate him because they don't understand him and he'd be alienated. And the other one was he wanted Clark to have a choice, because if Clark reveals that he has powers, then everyone knows that he has powers. But if he wanted to live a normal life, then he had to keep his powers a secret. And that was the theme of Man of Steel. That's the reason why Jor-El and Lara sent their son to Earth, because they wanted him to have the choice. Because Krypton, remember, was like a fascist society where your role was predetermined. And he was the first natural birth.
Okay. How about another thing that I hate about that film? Okay, so I get it that he's a young Superman and he, hasn't quite developed that, but he's still that farm boy from Kansas though, and he has that instinct or that teaching from his parents to, in the comics it's life, liberty, and the American way or whatever his little slogan is. But it is to protect truth, liberty, truth, justice in the American way. Thank you. But he has a sense of right and wrong. And when Zod attacks and he's fighting the Kryptonians, he just fights them right in downtown Smallville instead of going out to a wheat field. He's like smashing up the buildings of all these people that he knows. It sure seems like it was just a decision made so that, we need to have some stuff so let's smash up Smallville, instead of Superman going, these are people I care about. I need to move this fight elsewhere. I think basic human beings go, let's take this outside when we're going to fight, where other people aren't going to get damaged, property isn't going to get damaged. We go fight outside where we got space to fight.
I think that's a criticism with the
Superman.
Yeah, that's a criticism people give for the Zod fight as well. Like, why don't he just take the fight to space? And the thing is, I think Superman just he's not strong enough. He's fighting two other Kryptonians who are far more trained than he is, and they were handing him his ass. The only reason he won was because he got rid of the helmets. So they were in charge of the fight. And if he had just left, like he just goes to a cornfield, how does he know that they're not just going to start murdering all the people there and destroy the military as well? Like, because remember, the military was striking on them. If he had just left, just waited in a cornfield, he had no way of knowing that they'd go there to fight him.
Well, he can fly. He can grab somebody by the scruff of the neck and fly away.
Yeah, but the other person would hit him back and drag him down because
But he
these
could
are
no. He was the
proper
only one that could fly.
fighters.
They couldn't fly.
Yeah, but
The other
they could still like grab him and use strength and punch him down. They could still struggle against him. And with Zod says that he wants to kill every single human. So if Superman just goes to space and just waits up there, he'll look down and see Zod's just lasering down humans. So he has no choice
yeah,
but to
sure.
go there
I mean,
and try to stop him.
I don't have a problem with him defending other people from Zod and the Kryptonian. I just think that Superman is very different than every other Superman we've ever had before, which is fine if you want to change Superman and have your own Superman, but it's just a very different Superman that seemed to show very little regard for human beings and the destruction of property and that sort of.
Understandable, but I think he was trying his best, but he just couldn't do it. He just
And I like characters not being perfect. I do. Don't get me wrong. I don't want him to be the ultimate guy that can just do everything, no problem, every time, super easy, barely an inconvenience. But it just didn't seem like the Superman that it was raised by Ma and Pa Kent.
But keep in mind that this Superman was meant to only start developing. Like Man of Steel wasn't his complete story to become the Superman that we all know from the comics, the comic accurate Superman. That was only meant to happen after he was revived in Justice League. Because he had a big arc.
So how much did Snyder have plotted out then? Did he have this entire multi-movie series?
He had a 5-movie plot. So what was going to happen is Superman in Man of Steel is just his introduction to Earth, and he's revealed as Superman. In Batman v Superman, he deals with what his father warned him about people alienating him and not accepting him. And he's concerned with whether or not he's doing more harm than good. He sees everything. He sees all the bombings that's happening around him. And he thinks that's why he's depressed throughout the films. Am I actually helping? What if I'm causing more problems? For humans, I'm ruining the worldview by just existing. I'm a threat. I'm causing more harm than good. So that's why he doesn't know, and he still doesn't accept Earth as his world. If you remember in the fight with Doomsday, he literally says, "Doomsday's from my world," and it's only right before the sacrifice where he finally accepts Earth as his own world. Despite how many people hate him and everything, he still decides to accept humanity as himself as human. And that was the whole point of Batman v Superman, is that Superman, who's the alien, who's meant to be the bad guy, is actually the most human one. And Lex Luthor, who's meant to be a philanthropist humanist, is actually the evil one. That's not Granny's peach tea, is it?
Speaking of that, I my neighbors made some moonshine with butterscotch in it the other day, and I tasted it, and it evaporates before you can even drink it. It's that strong.
Wow.
Don't go blind.
Probably for other reasons.
And then when Superman comes back to life in Justice League, he was meant to, how he was confused, his dazed and confused.
Yeah.
They go back to the farm, and Lois calms him down a little bit, but he's still not recovered. So they call his mom, who comes down and gives him the same line. Remember in Man of Steel how they talked to his mom when he was a kid? His mom talks about focusing on an island and coming back and swim to the island. That speech was going to be given again. And then he goes to the cornfields and he hallucinates his dad again. And Kevin Costner was in Justice League, was meant to be in Justice League. And after that, he finally accepts. He embraces being Superman. And then he goes. And then there was a second flight scene. He gets his suit, goes, sees Alfred. Alfred tells him, go to Russia to help them at a nuclear plant. It shows him flying again, finally becoming the comic accurate Superman. And honestly, but for Smallville, I think he just had way too much on his mind. It was his first day. He's kind of preoccupied with two superpowered beings. He wants to save the humans, but he doesn't know what the hell to do. And there's a scene as well where, you remember when Zod kicks a truck and he just flies over it, then it explodes behind him. Then he just turns around looking at it what the, oh shit, I should have stopped that. He's still learning the ropes. He looks back, he's like, shit, I should have actually stopped that instead of just letting it go. So yeah, he's still learning in Man of Steel.
I like that. I like that it's his first day. I like that he's just learning the ropes, understanding all this, and he's face to face with his own people for the first time, and they're trying to kill him basically, or at least get his all the DNA of all the Kryptonians in his body.
Yep.
So, okay, tell me why Lois Lane is brought aboard the alien ship.
I'm not too sure on that either, but perhaps because she was the one who they said no, because there were news reports about how Lois knows who this Kryptonian is. And she was there as well, so they think she's a little important. She knows stuff. They didn't want to risk her knowing about the terraforming plans and foiling it. And that's the only reason I can think.
Okay. I haven't seen the movie recently, recently enough to tear apart
And-
what you just said. So
and also
I
keep
guess we'll
in
just
mind
have to go with that.
they probed them both, and they found out like they kind of mind read them on the ship. So I think they were doing that to see how much they know, and that's how they knew where the Kent farm was, and they went there. That's why they went to Smallville in the first place.
Okay, Daniel, do you have any criticisms of Man of Steel before we move on?
Well, my biggest thing was just that they were these superhuman beings that are invincible, and yet they're still using blunt force to fight each other, and it doesn't
They're not
seem to make a lot of sense.
I don't think they're invincible to each other. Like Zod and Superman, it's like if we were let's say if humans, let's say there's a bunch of ants like all over the place. There's 6 million ants somewhere.
There are.
Yeah. And then like just in a house, and two humans go there, and the two humans want to fight. The humans are still going to use blunt force and start like doing a fist fight. But the ants might be like, these big invincible humans, why are they punching each other? I think it's just they're equivalent. So it's like two humans fighting, but it's just superpowered humans.
Okay, all right. So they can hurt
And-
each other, but everything they crash into is kind of like they just brush it off like it's nothing.
Yeah.
All right.
And there was one thing else I was just saying. I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, what about the world engine in the Indian Ocean that he couldn't destroy, and all of a sudden he made a grunty face, and then he could destroy it?
Oh, yeah. I did think about that, and I love my reasoning for this. I think Superman has super willpower, and sometimes, like in the comics as well, when he faces like a really bad situation, he can just give it his all and just push through. Like there's an animated movie called Batman Superman Public Enemies, where Lex Luthor has a kryptonite suit, and then Batman is sacrificing himself to destroy like a meteorite. And after Batman goes and Superman thinks Batman's dead, he gets angry and he actually stands up against the kryptonite, even though it was powering him down. So when Superman really wants to, and it's in a very desperate situation, he can kind of push through his weaknesses, but then he kind of goes weak. Because you remember, he destroys the world engine, but then he falls on the ground and he has to look at the sun to get his power back.
Okay, and we
And
see
Batman that's the same reason.
with the
That's the reason why he picks up the kryptonite spear, because in that situation he just had to give it his all. Then he dies afterwards.
Right. Okay. Now in this movie, the Justice League movie, it seems as though when Superman gets involved in the fight with Steppenwolf, that it's game over, right?
Yep.
And I don't know if it doesn't for Steppenwolf to be like this super badass guy, but he's like a lesser being than even Zod was.
Yeah.
Seems a little odd.
It definitely does. Now, I'm not sure. I think the fight was meant to be a bit more balanced in Snyder's version. And the unity was the three mother boxes together was meant to be a much bigger threat. And it wasn't just as simple as, pull it apart and boom, explode. The physics of my toes hurting, blah, blah, laugh. It wasn't meant to be like that. They were meant to have to go inside the mother box. And when Cyborg goes inside it, he was meant to have a vision very similar to Batman's nightmare in Batman v Superman. And then they were going to destroy the Unity, but then that was going to kill Cyborg and Superman, and they were just going to die. Then so Flash runs really fast and goes back in time and just grabs them both the moment before the explosion happens and saves them, which then opens a point for Flashpoint and Flash being able to time travel.
That sounds like that would have been better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely want the superpowered characters to have unique contribution abilities, because it sure seems like all the might of the Justice League combined were getting their butts kicked by Steppenwolf, but then Superman comes in, and then like Steppenwolf's like a joke to Superman. So it makes me wonder why Superman needs these other people on the team. So I appreciate that Flash can actually do something like go back in time, I guess. I don't know if the Superman can do that or not. But if Superman is as fast as Flash, then why do we need the Flash?
Sure, he's not meant to be. Flash is like Speed Force makes you a lot faster than Superman's Kryptonian speed.
I would hope so.
And also something else, being the super feminist Joss Whedon is, he actually added more Wonder Woman scenes. Like he cut from every single other character. There were a lot more Aquaman scenes, a lot more Flash scenes, and a shit ton more Cyborg scenes. Cyborg was meant to be the heart of the film. Like you see him before the accident with like his mom and like him playing football. Then you see him during the accident. Then you see his relationship with his dad. And then his dad was meant to die. Like the mother box was going to disintegrate his dad. And then I think Cyborg was going to become Steppenwolf. You know when Steppenwolf rips Cyborg apart? He was going to stay deactivated from there. And then the ending of the movie would have been, the speech Lois Lane gives at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That was meant to be by Cyborg's father, a recording left by Cyborg's father.
Okay, instead of Lois like overcoming her grief because Clark is alive again.
And also, the movie would have explained why Like, how everyone had a problem with Batman killing in Batman v Superman. It would have explained that. So in that scene where Batman and Wonder Woman are talking, Batman actually like admits that nothing would justify his killing like that. Like, he realizes he was like in such a hateful mindset that he didn't have any excuse to kill those people, and the only way to redeem himself is to die, which is why he actually, in the Snyder version, he doesn't brick hole Lois. He doesn't get the big guns. He's just willing to have Superman kill him right then and there. But then Lois just happens to be on the street and sees that and goes there.
How convenient.
And also the whole movie's based on convenience. Martha, but then and that's why he wants to drive into the parademons as well. Like, it just, in this movie, it kind of looked stupid, him just driving and getting wanting to get killed by the parademons. Whereas in the Snyder version, that was meant to be his redemption. Like, he was going to die to make up for all the killing he's done and how he lost his morals.
Okay, and do you think that would have been justice in an anarcho-capitalist society? Like, he's doing his penance and he's self-imposing. What is that, like, self-flagellation?
To be completely honest, I don't think him killing violates the NAP. Because keep in mind, he only ever killed in self-defense. He was about to kill Superman, like murder Superman, but then he didn't. Every other person he killed was in self-defense. Or I think it's just personal morals rather than objective legal morals.
Okay. And then the torturing, he have to do the torturing. That was just him like losing his way a little bit.
Wait a minute. Are we talking about Batman killing in self-defense here? In Batman versus Superman?
Yeah. Like, the minigun was shooting at him, so he shot the minigun and blew up the car. Then the guy was holding the gun.
Column of vehicles.
Yeah, but they were evil.
They were defending themselves.
Remember, they were like mercenaries who had killed lots of innocents as well.
So
I
that wasn't why Batman was there. He wasn't there to exact justice on those people. He was there to steal the kryptonite.
Yeah, he's robbing them.
Yeah, he's robbing and killing them at that point.
Technically, yeah. Batman
Technically, Shaheen?
Yeah. Okay. But Batman, I agree that Batman, until the end of the Batman fighting Superman scene, Batman was a villain in Batman v Superman. The first part he actually becomes a hero is when he goes to the warehouse to save Superman's mom. Yeah.
Yeah. He even admits that he's a criminal. He tells Alfred that they've always been criminals.
But like, he was a criminal, but like a vigilante hero. But he is a criminal, but an actual villain, because his whole plan up until that point was to kill Superman. Everything he did was a plan to kill Superman up until the point where he doesn't kill Superman and realizes he was being an idiot.
So that's his Bush doctor thing. So he's attempting to kill Superman.
If there's even a 1% chance that he's a bad guy, we got to kill him. We got to kill him over there so he doesn't kill us over here.
Yeah, because the effects will be so catastrophic if he destroys all of humanity.
Right, and he hates us for our freedoms.
Which is a great argument to attack every nuclear silo in the world.
Invade Krypton.
Yeah, invade Krypton, if it still existed.
Yeah, it already blew up, right?
We need nation building.
That's right.
We need to install a democracy in Krypton.
That'll prevent disaster.
Probably what caused it to blow up.
So, Shaheen, I know you like these movies, but did you have any problem, just from a comic book nerd perspective, that there's no such thing as secret identities in these films? Because there's the scene where Batman goes to recruit Aquaman. Batman is standing on the shore. Aquaman goes in like 20 feet into the water. Batman is surrounded by fishermen. Surrounded. And Aquaman goes, "You dress like a bat. You're out of your mind, Bruce Wayne."
Doesn't mean
they're Atlantic dudes. They don't understand English.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, they're cut off from the rest of civilization. Aquaman says he goes there because no one else does.
They don't have the internet.
No interweb.
They don't know. They're not familiar with a guy that dresses like a bat in Gotham City that would be world famous.
I don't think they won't even know.
You know, they actually got that on location in Iceland, which seems bizarre to me that you would go through all that hassle to fly all the way to Iceland, the whole crew, and shoot it there when it was just a bar scene, right? Like, wouldn't that just be like a soundstage?
Well, they got to spend $500 million somehow. $500 million doesn't spend itself, Daniel. I mean, all the fake mustaches in the world only adds up to like $30 million.
Now, what's with the whole Chernobyl situation? Like, they were obviously referencing Chernobyl. They came up with some other name for it, and this was like to provide cover for Steppenwolf's plan to bring the unity together. And there are people who've moved back into that area because no one can go anywhere else.
Yeah, they weren't meant to be in the Snyder's cut. There was no Russian family, and there were no people there. There might have been civilians
because that was terrible.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was just all just.
To rando Russian family in random place getting attacked by parademons for some rando reason. What the hell, movie?
Fair enough. I didn't like it either.
Well,
Oh,
that
flat.
gave them somebody to save later, right? So that was like Flash's big moment to be able to save them, and then you see Superman save a whole building of people flying off.
Yeah, that was like a comedy scene as well.
Yeah,
Like
it
it's
was.
Flash saves a few, then looks and sees a big thing. Like that just doesn't belong in a serious movie. Oh, by the way, rewatching Batman v Superman, I did see the gay kiss scene.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Totally just weird that it's there. It's
Yeah.
just in the background, and there's no reference to it after that at all. It's just there.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. There's a
When
gay
Clark
kiss
gets
scene?
on the boat to go to Gotham.
Yeah, to cover the sports ball. He's getting on like the Staten Island ferry equivalent, and just in the background, two guys like kiss for some reason.
It's like half a second.
I did not notice that.
It's only the director's cut, baby. So anyway, that just sidetracked this whole discussion here.
Awkward.
Yeah, God. All right, so Shaheen, what's your take on the theatrical cut? You said that they were trying to simplify this, and
Yeah, for Justice League.
right. And then where do you think they're going to take it from here? And then let's talk about the movement release the Snyder Cut.
All right. So what they were trying to do is they were trying to make it shorter, simpler, lighter toned, and funnier, and just less serious. That's kind of what they were going with, because they saw how like Marvel movies are so funny. They have quips here and there. I guess that works for that dimension, but a lot of the DC fans, like if you go to like DVD sections, you see like Man of Steel, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman DVDs. They're like the shelves are half full, or sometimes they're just sold out. But if you go and see like Justice League, that's the one that no one buys because no one wants to see it, because they're trying to appeal to a general audience with like the DC films after Snyder was departed. But I think that's why they're making their mistake. They're just trying to make things lighthearted and funny. Like there's a new movie coming out called Birds of Prey. Have you heard of that?
I'm familiar. Isn't that the female Bat Force, basically?
Yeah, it's like in this version, it's Harley Quinn, Black Canary, Cassandra Cain, and Huntress. And
Huntress
Batgirl's meant to be in it.
Isn't Huntress, what's her name?
Helena Bertinelli.
No, the character. Isn't that Gordon's daughter?
Oh, that's Batgirl or
Okay.
Oracle.
Okay.
She's not in the movie.
Okay.
But well, apparently the plot was leaked online, and they're taking it in just a comedic route. So the plot is the main crime boss, Black Mask.
Yep.
Yeah, he in this version
Black Mask one
he's
hell of
played. Yeah. He's meant to be Ewan. He's played by Ewan McGregor, which is Obi-Wan from the prequels. So he's meant to be flamboyantly gay and into art. He's in love with this serial killer guy, and he has dick pics in a diamond, which this little Asian girl swallows. And so he's trying to get her and kill her and take the diamond, while now the Birds of Prey have to come and defend the girl from Black Mask.
Because of
And
dick
it's just
pics?
because of dick pics. So if that's true, I'm kind of just going to be done with the DCEU.
Yeah, that sounds like it could be rough.
Yeah.
It's too close to the real news. I mean, that sounds like the
Anthony
part
Weiner
of the plot
situation.
of the Lolita Express and the bad times at the El Royale we just talked about, where they were getting dirt on people with the surveillance, getting them to do illicit shit and getting recordings of it for leverage, blackmail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we talked about this earlier with Steppenwolf being just this evil dude, just up to no good for no particular reason. He just is bent on destruction and realizing ultimate power. That was similar to the Hemsworth character in El Royale. Like that was one of our criticisms this week. Was like he just seems like a bad guy for no particular reason.
Yeah, the motivations were just shithouse.
Yeah. The actor who played Steppenwolf, I think he has a quote where he says that that's not the movie he worked so hard on, and he wishes the director's cut will be released because it's a lot better than the theatrical version.
Now, is he dead at the end of this one? Like the locust things like eat him and then his helmet falls down, or is he?
I have no
removed from the
clue.
scene?
I have no clue. In the Snyder Cut, they take him to Apocalypse. They broom tube him. That's the teleporting. They broom tube him to Darkseid. He tells Darkseid what happens, and then Darkseid kills him. And then he's like, "I'm going to give that Kryptonian a visit." And then that's how the movie ends. And the next one, what was going to happen is Darkseid kills Lois, and then uses the anti-life mind control thing to control Superman, and Superman becomes susceptible to the mind control. And then with Lois dead and Superman being controlled by Darkseid, that's the nightmare that Batman had in Batman v Superman. That becomes a reality.
Okay, and there's no reference to that nightmare scene in this Justice League at all.
There was meant to be. There was meant to be like there was a scene where Batman talks about the nightmare to the team, and like the reason they bring Superman back is because Batman thinks if they don't bring Superman back, Steppenwolf will bring Superman back, and that will cause the nightmare. So that's the main reason. One of the other reasons why Batman's desperate to bring Superman back.
Now that's
Like,
in the Snyder vision, not in this theatrical.
yeah. Oh, no, not in this.
Okay, because
In this version, they just scrapped that whole nightmare thing with this big story and time travel and Mad Max Batman style thing. They changed the whole thing to be just Batman calls Alfred to bring Lois, and therefore that whole feature's avoided. That's kind of what they changed it to in the theatrical version, which is so anticlimactic.
Do you think there's any way that these movies actually ever get made, like in the way we're talking?
Look,
or you think that they actually exist?
They don't exist. The Snyder's film, his Justice League is done. He's actually like on record saying, like, he was talking to fans and they asked him about the cut and he said something like, I've got a cut, it's done, it's just up to Warner Brothers to release them. And yeah, so the thing is they want to move away from that direction, and they kind of like they do that after retcon it, and because they want to move the DC universe inside like to a more disconnected world. Like the new Ben Affleck's not even the new Batman anymore. It's Robert Pattinson now.
Right.
So, and that's going to be supposedly going to be a prequel to Ben Affleck's Batman. Like that's what happened when he first started, and now this is him 20 years later in Batman v Superman.
Oh, this is going to be like a year one, Robert Pattinson?
Yeah, it's going to be the Long Halloween, I think.
Oh, okay.
Which is like still fairly early on.
Yeah, sure.
Which is a really good comic, worth checking out. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they scrapped the Batman v Deathstroke. There was going to be a Batman vs Deathstroke movie, which directed by Ben Affleck and co-wrote by Chris Terrio. It's the guy that wrote Argo.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
he helped write.
He had credit on this too, Justice League.
Yeah, he wrote. So he helped with the original script for Justice League with Snyder. And when Joss was doing reshoots, he actually there's a rumor that Chris Terrio got so angry with them and he yelled like, "How about we use a few pages of my work, of my script?" Because they were just changing so much around.
Tension.
It's really kind of frustrating. Sounds like there's a good movie here somewhere, but it didn't get delivered.
And people who complain that in Batman v Superman was too dark, or Batman was like too edgy and too much of a killer, this movie would have changed that. They would have both that's the thing about Snyder's movies. He sets every character up for so much development. Like Superman, we see his entire story. He's in a dark place. Half humanity hates him, and he needs to embrace that and embrace being Superman and become lighthearted. Batman has gone over the edge, so he needs to come back to his morals, what he used to be. Wonder Woman has left civilization for 100 years, and now she's coming back. Aquaman's a loner who needs to become the king, and Flash and Cyborg have just started out too. So every single character had so much development to do. That's exactly how he wrote. He wrote them in a place where they all have positive character arcs, and yeah.
It sounds like people just gave up on him before you could get to that part.
Yeah. Like Batman v Superman was not meant to be the definitive version. It was like, what if Superman hasn't fully become Superman yet, and Batman used to be properly Batman, but then he got, with Robin dying, with Harvey Dent going bad, with 20 years of just doing this and nothing happening, and then his building collapsing and Superman coming, it just pushed him over the edge. And now he needs to recover and become good again. And in Justice League, that was meant to happen.
It seems like if you were Snyder and you pitched this whole series, and then if the studio comes in and is like, no, we're not going to do that, couldn't Snyder have some kind of repercussions? Like, I don't know. I guess I'm not privy to the contracts that they sign when they get on to do this, but it sure seems like Snyder had a vision for a larger story, and
it's 5
that Warner Brothers, you would think he would sign into some sort of contract that would have him say, hey, you agree that so far as the movie's performing X amount, that we're going to, go along with this entire show. But I understand that, there's a lot of pressure to course correct after fan backlash and other things, but still, it seems like Snyder had a plan. It's a shame that he didn't get a chance to finish it.
Yeah. Hopefully, what I'm hoping is, because the Snyder Cut does exist, it's either completely done or 95% done. So hopefully that can be released. And then we can get the remaining 2 Justice League movies in either a comic form or an animated movie form. So we see Snyder's full vision in one way, in one medium. And hopefully they'll be able to rehire him and he'll get all the actors back and they'll actually make the movies. But if not, then I'll be happy with just a comic book, just to see what the story would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like rich source material for the storyline.
It seems like a story that would definitely be embraced by comic book fans. Like if you actually did release it as a comic book. I mean, comic books are fairly cheap to make, so you could really experiment. And a guy with Snyder's clout, it seems like he could easily get his scripts turned into a comic book if there isn't some sort of Warner Brother copyright claim or whatever over
Yeah.
ownership issue.
This whole fuckfest has been the biggest example of why IP sucks to me. Because if like let's say Warner Brothers didn't own the rights to DC characters, Snyder could just make his own movies and just finish it regardless. Whereas now they're like, no, we're going to control these characters. And
yeah, I'm sure there's any number of studios that would love to throw some money at his idea, but like you say, they got that iron grip.
Yep.
All right, well, why don't we get into do a double dose of the summary and review, since we're already almost at time here. So, Robert, you want to hit us with your Batman v Superman theatrical and extended, and then top it off with some Justice League?
Well, Batman versus Superman theatrical was terrible. It had its good parts, but the movie, the story was so disjointed, and things just seemed to be happening for no reason. I still am a huge fan of Snyder's. I think he leans a little bit too heavy on CGI and not enough real world. I understand he wants to have full control over the frame. He's really good at constructing a frame of a beautiful scene, but I wish he would work more in the real world. But still, it's terrible. The Batman versus Superman theatrical cut, I hated it. I'd say it's like a 4. But the director's cut vastly improves it. I still don't think it's a great film, but it fills in a lot of blanks. So that moves it up to about a 6 for me. I don't think it's the masterpiece that Shaheen says, but he has bumped up my appreciation for it. That's for sure. But I can't judge it based on, Snyder's vision for all these movies. You have to take it for what we're given. And it's still a flawed film. I don't think we have time to get into all the little details. And I don't even know if I remember all the criticisms I have for that film. So moving on to Justice League, this one was terrible. I've seen it twice, and each time it barely held my attention. And that's when I have a lot of distractions in my life, but this movie didn't pull my attention at all, except to maybe yell and complain. Like, what? What is this crap? Are you serious? This is what you're doing? That's me watching Justice League. There are a few decent bright spots. I thought that the acting was a little bit better. It's still two different directors clashing together to make some kind of Frankenstein film. Zack Snyder composes a shot for it to be a certain tone and a certain darkness, but then they decided to brighten it up. So then the costumes look all goofy. So with the Zack Snyder lighting, those costumes look all cool and badass. But then they just make it so that all the scenes happen during the day or something, and then the costumes look kind of good. But yeah, Justice League, man, it's like a 4. It's just not very good. So that'll do it for me. I don't have a whole lot of complicated thoughts. All my complicated thoughts were all filled in throughout the episode. Shaheen, what did you think?
Yeah, honestly, I last watched this movie like before last night, a couple months ago. And to its defense, I don't think it's super awful. I don't think it's I think it's on par with, let's say, like a bit worse than Avengers 1, is how I'd put it. In terms of like the jokes, the simple plot. But yeah, I would have liked it to be more complex and serious.
Right, especially when they have like this overall vision for what they're trying to accomplish. It feels like the vision was good, but then the execution, it kind of fell apart.
Yeah. All right, so theatrical cut of Batman v Superman does have a lot of problems. I still think if you understand the plot and then you go to watch it, like if you understand the plot and like what's going on and you see it, sure, it's a bit disjointed and everything, but I don't think it's that bad. I'd give that like a 6 or a 7, 6.5. Personally, I love dark, serious, and complex films. I love sitting around afterwards, like getting a piece of paper and mapping out like what the motivations were, what the plans were, what the plot was, and then seeing that unfold in front of my eyes while watching the movie. And then just trying to like go through the plot over and over in my head while watching the movie, as well as just trying to empathize with the characters and think, what are they feeling? Like that's something I don't see in too many Marvel movies, to sit down and feel like, okay, what is this character feeling? But like in Batman v Superman, with Superman being rejected by so much of humanity, being hated on, and then doubting himself, like that scene where he says Superman was never real, just a dream of a farmer from Kansas, and just Batman's PTSD and him realizing the mistakes he was making while he was trying to kill Superman, and the way Batman looks at Superman's body when Superman's dead, realizing like I was about to kill this alien, but then I realized he was a human like me, metaphorically, and then now this alien who I thought was about to kill sacrificed himself to save me and the rest of humanity. Or just when you empathize with the characters, kind of try to think what they're thinking, feel what they're feeling, it does become a lot deeper. So I personally do think Batman v Superman was a masterpiece. I love the aesthetics. I like the theme. I love the storyline. So in my opinion, it's a 10. But at Justice League, yeah, it's just crap. I mean, it's not that awful. Like I can kind of tolerate it. If you think of it as like a Marvel movie, like if we got the Snyder Cut and then I watched the theatrical as like, oh, just a kiddie version of Justice League, like a funnier, lighter version, a what if version, then yeah, then it'll be like tolerable. But if I don't want that to be the Justice League movie, in no way. They deserve a lot better. So
But
I'll give that one like
Justice
5.
League movie. You give it a 5?
Yeah, Justice League.
All right. And
The
unfortunately,
we call it Justice League, like JOSS League.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. The Justice League. I like that. And that 10 for the director's cut of Batman v Superman, that's a bold statement. But I think
It's subjective.
well,
Value is subjective.
yes, very much so. There's our economics lesson for tonight, everyone.
Yep.
But also with your background, and you're able to fill in the story like you were saying, and I'll just jump into my thing here, that if you have kind of the sort of the idea of what they're trying to convey already in mind, then you can pick up these elements as you're watching it. It even makes the theatrical cut even better. But if you're watching it as as somewhat of a lay person where you're familiar with Superman and Batman, but you're not like a comic book nerd, you're going to watch that theatrical cut of Batman v Superman, and it's going to make no sense at all. I mean, you're like, I know who these characters are, but I don't know why this has happened over here and why they think Superman did this, and none of it's going to add up. But I think bringing some of that knowledge to it, and then of course having the extended version available, that does make it a lot more coherent. And so the original one, yeah, I'm down there with like a 4 with you, Robert. Like it's hard to watch because it's just so disjointed. It's hard to make sense of it, and I think that's a mistake to release a movie like that. Like there's no excuse for that, especially when they have the content. Like they shot the content, it's there. That's why we have the director's cut. Sure, they probably didn't want to have a 3-hour plus theater run, because then you can only show it like 4 times in a day instead of 5 or 6 times in a day. And
People would go to watch, like rewatch, because they enjoyed it so much.
Yeah. I think it kind of cuts both ways, right? Like you can only do so many showings when it's super long, but then if it's really good, then you get people to watch it again.
Yeah, Avengers Endgame, that was 3 hours long. Yeah, it made $2 billion. Because so many people watched it so many times. Like I watched it twice. I'm not even that big of a Marvel fan, but
right. But then there's also the time, right? Like this Batman v Superman was what 2016, early 2016
yep.
when it came out, and then Infinity War and Endgame, those are more recent. So the precedent was still what, Titanic, right? Prior.
Yeah.
So maybe in hindsight, yeah, they would have released the director cut in the theater.
Keep in mind, Dark Knight Rises was 2 hours and 45 minutes. So only 45 minutes short, 15 minutes short of being 3 hours like this.
Right. And it did okay, right? Even though it's not that great of a movie.
I thought it was pretty decent.
But it was criticized for its length, just meandering plot and problems.
Yeah, so I think that's going to make them be a little gun shy going into this, like having that be their preceding movie and then not knowing what's going to happen in the future with Infinity War and Endgame. But you have given me a new appreciation for Batman v Superman, so I'm up there with like an 8.5 on that one.
Nice.
Justice League, though, man, it is a Frankenstein's monster, and yeah, like I was watching it, and I was like, I don't really have anything to take notes on, so I literally wrote nothing down for this one.
Yeah, it wasn't thought-provoking.
Yeah, and I think that was like one of the key differences, because in watching the ones leading up to this, you're like, oh, there's going to be some philosophical stuff to look for. And then you get into this and it's like, there's nothing there. So I think that was another thing that kind of was a letdown. Like you go into it expecting one thing and then you get something completely different.
Yeah, definitely.
Joss Whedon, I mean, he did Firefly and Serenity. And Robert, when you were up here a couple of weeks ago, we watched Serenity. And yeah, I mean, he's writing quippy dialogue and having, space cowboys, and he's an accidental libertarian in a lot of ways. I mean, it doesn't show through in this movie at all, but it does in Serenity and Firefly. But yeah, it's such a stark contrast with Snyder, and to think that you can mash those two up and get anything that is going to be watchable out of that is just bizarre to me, because the tone shifts completely. The stories change so much. You've abandoned a lot of the storylines from the prior movies, and they're probably doing a course correction, but they're going further off the track.
Yeah, if I was gonna have two guys co-direct a movie, it wouldn't be Joss Whedon and our boy. There's two conflicting styles. This doesn't make sense to me. I understand that that's not what happened. He came in to finish a movie that wasn't done, but still, it's like I know they're going for a lighter tone, but it's like you got two very wildly conflicting styles. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's totally fine. Yeah, and I'm going to go lower than you on that one. I'm going to go limbo down to the 3.5 for Justice League. It's probably my lowest score ever, I want to say.
That's fair.
But that's where I'm at on that. So
Deserving.
Shaheen, thank you, sir, and thank you.
Just one thing.
Yeah,
one thing. Like Zach himself has said that, like this was a quote made by him. If you walk out of the theater still thinking about the movie, my job is done. Whether you love it or hate it, if you're thinking about the movie, my job is done. So the fact that he makes a complex plot that 3 years later, people like me are still obsessed over, and it makes me just think, and like how deep it was, the meaning behind it, the philosophy behind it, how people should have a choice in whether or not they can help or not, what it means to be human, and all that stuff, sacrifice, and just a really complex storyline. It's definitely my type of film.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw the trailer for Man of Steel, and there was the scene where the kids are in the bus and they're sinking in the water and they're going to die or whatever. And Clark's like, I forget, young Clark was, debating on whether or not he should save these kids. And he's like, of course I should, or something like that. And then his dad was like, but you don't have to, or you don't owe it to him, or should you save those people? I thought it seemed to be asking deep kind of moral philosophical questions more than like your average popcorn flick comic book. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, and that's another good point. Both of you just reminded me that it seemed like all the philosophical issues fall away from Justice League. Like you have it in Man of Steel and you have it in Batman v Superman, especially director cut, and then it's just like a nothing burger for Justice League. There's like no real reason. There's just this apparent bad guy who can beat up all of the Justice League except for Superman. But that's, pretty much it. I mean, it's it's not even a popcorn flick. It's an abomination. I think that's what you call it. It's a debacle. So anyway, Shaheen, thank you again for being our guest. We really appreciate you. We'll have to find another DC or Batman movie to do in the future with you again.
No worries.
And Robert, I think next week we're going to bring back a guest we haven't had on in quite a long time. And we're going to talk about the movie with Warren Beatty from the 80s called Reds.
Yeah, with I think Annette Bening and Jack Nicholson. Not a movie I was familiar with. In fact, when you said, hey, let's do Reds, I was like, you mean Red 1 and 2? As in plural, Reds? He's like, no, the communist movie from the 80s. I was like, oh, so I had to Google it. And yeah, it looks like there's some content there for sure where it's like a love triangle that takes place on the backdrop of these revolutionary communists. So I'm sure there's going to be content for days on that one.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to watching it because it is almost a 3-hour movie. And I did watch the trailer, and there's a lot of steaminess just even in the trailer. So that the movie itself is just chock full of those long, steamy romance scenes like the 80s are known for. And I'm going to start playing the Pat McFarlane Liberty Weekly old music. But, I think that it's going to have some good meat to talk about. If I just fast forward through those moments, I think it'll be all right.
Do the love scenes make you feel uncomfortable? Do you get a funny feeling down in your pee-pee?
I need a trigger warning. But so that'll be fun. That'll be the one we do next week. And then after that, we're going to continue our series. It'll be that time of the month, Robert.
Uh-oh. Oh, no, I got to go. That means I get to watch more Star Treks. That's fun.
That's right.
Data has a baby?
Data has a baby.
Robot has a baby.
So that'll be the show after Reds, and then we'll get into some other stuff after that. But I think that's going to do it for us tonight on The Last Nighters. So check out the show notes and more at lastnighters.com/81. You'll find information on Shaheen, our guest, and also how to follow him on Twitter. Also, all of your previous appearances will be listed down there as well. If people can't get enough of you, there's hours and hours of you talking with us about nerd stuff, which is great. We love it. So thank you for that. And this is also on Launchpad Media. And if you guys like what we do here, do give us a rating or review on the old iTunes. You can subscribe to us there at lastnight.com/Apple Podcasts. And any final words from either of you guys before we say goodnight from last night?
Stay sexy, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really fun to be on, as always.
Always a pleasure. Shaheen, come back again.
All right, and we can continue for a few more minutes on the Actual Anarchy podcast. That was a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. Shaheen, you gave the director's cut of Batman v Superman a 10. And I want to know, is that related to our pre-show discussion, which is available for our Patreon supporters, where we were saying that Robert and I have never given a 10? So were you rising to the challenge to get a 10 into this?
No, it's just my favorite movie. I mean, the Dark Knight trilogy is like a close second. But like I kind of see like Man of Steel and Batman v Superman as one very long movie. The Dark Knight trilogy is also one very, very long movie. So these two together become my favorite. And then the Dark Knight trilogy is a close second.
Okay, and I do recall you did give some pretty high scores, especially for Dark Knight with Heath Ledger.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, you want me to say more things? Let's see here. I'm looking over my notes that we didn't talk about. I don't care about anybody in this movie. This movie lacks stakes. I don't give a shit if everybody dies, except maybe Martha Kent. Martha Kent is the only kind of human character in Justice League that I cared about, because she cares about her son, but everybody else can die in this movie. I didn't give a shit.
Now, I didn't understand, like, she was another one who kind of teleported to where she needed to be at the time she needed to be there, but her house had been foreclosed on, and then she moved away, I thought, and got a job somewhere. But then when Clark flies back to Kansas with Lois after being revived and resuscitated, she shows up moments later, which seems not possible, but, movie convenience and contrivance.
Are you saying that there's contrivances in this film?
It's all contrivances.
How dare you?
So anyway, Shaheen, are you able to stick around a little bit for some Kathleen Turner Overdrive when we wind this one down?
Yeah, sure. Yep.
All right. Well, I think we should just get into that. So that's available for our Patreon supporters at actualanarchy.com/Patreon. So do pick one of the levels there that gives you the behind the scenes access. You get the pre-show and post-show stuff there. And the show notes for this can be found at actualanarchy.com/138. We do appreciate you guys being a listener of ours, and please reach out to us with any critiques or criticisms or comments, reviews, all that stuff. We'd like to hear what you think. And if you have any suggestions for future movies, we'd love to hear that as well. We're always racking our heads for what we should do next, because there is a plethora of choice. There's too many flavors to choose from, and sometimes we get analysis paralysis. So if you guys have any ideas that you want us to talk about, throw them out at us, and we will highly, highly consider them. And Shaheen, thanks again for being our guest, and we will get into some Kathleen Turner Overdrive. Maximum freedom. Party!
The Chipmunks. CHIPMUNK. We're the Chipmunks. Guaranteed to brighten your day. Do 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 do.
In the early days of the internet, radical libertarians were scattered, lonely, and faceless. Without direction, they resigned to scour the web, sifting through content providers in a wasteland plagued by YouTube demonetization, Facebook jail, and covert internet censorship. But then, in 2017, the Libertarian Union was formed. Finally, the average Joe libertarian could find a thriving community of independent podcasters and content providers, all in one convenient location. At Libertarian Union, we'll always have the latest news, interviews, discussions, and even movie reviews. With hundreds of episodes and more added all the time, you'll always find something fresh at libertarianunion.com.